In 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. It is wildcard weekend. The playoffs are here. We have a guest today. Andy, how fired up are you?
I'm fine, and not only it's wild card Wednesday because we're doing this at a weird time, which is kind of nice. Like I'm gonna go home and eat a meal with my family tonight on a Wednesday instead of just sticking at the studio to do this later. Like everything about this is kind of nice. We get an awesome guest, a longtime friend of the program, probably from the outset, early on, back in the days when he had a Kevin James avatar, and
Yes.
you were just, I mean, yeah, you were somebody we followed on Twitter very early on, back when your name was just Suma.
Well, let's welcome our guest appropriately. Oldest friend of the Deep Dive pod. I think we may have had a couple of guests at the very, very onset of the podcast talking college football and tennis and stuff, but our very first NFL guest, without question, and this was an easy call. I think our most appearances record holder.
Yeah, probably. He just keeps adding to that record. It's like
yeah, it's like Tom Brady and Drew Brees at this point, probably between Suma and Lockie, maybe at this. Yeah. All right. Well, without further ado, our sexy German friend, NFL handicapper extraordinaire, and no one better to help us paint the picture of what is going to happen this wild card weekend and even beyond, Mr. Fabian Suma. Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Guys, thanks for having me again this year. Happy about the invitation. Let's talk some football.
Yes.
I suppose, and we are doing this as a live stream, and sometimes I do forget that like a bunch of people will listen to this as a podcast. So, his face is already on the screen before we started. That's why I was like, oh, it's Suma. But yeah, we should introduce him if you haven't listened to any of his stuff. He's a smart guy. Follow him on Twitter if you're following us.
Yep.
Yeah, I see that.
And
my green screen is all goofed up. Thanks, Drew.
Let's start by congratulations, Suma, on another successful season. I think it's we chat a lot behind the scenes. We obviously do the Matchbook Pod together, and it has been awesome going back and forth with you. I guess, did you have any kind of sort of macro thoughts on how the NFL season went and how the playoffs are shaping up before we get specifically into these wild card matchups? It was a good season football wise, right?
Yeah, of course. I think actually I had a lot more concerns about COVID going to the season, to be honest. I thought we would have a lot more issues with injury reports, with full units getting put on the lists right before games and stuff like that. And overall, I think sometimes you get caught off guard with some of those line moves due to COVID. But overall, I think the NFL did a pretty good job at handling everything. I think there were some things that they could have done better, but overall, I didn't really expect 256 games until week 17. To be honest, I thought they might add a week 18, something like that, maybe a playoff extension. But overall, pretty solid. And what I've also noticed, it's sometimes I got beaten on some line moves on Sunday morning, which did not really happen a lot over the past couple of years. Maybe some guys just trying to middle and up some totals and stuff like that, where they just come back on Sunday morning and suddenly your closing line value evaporates. But overall, good season for me. Great football, high scoring season, and I cannot argue at all.
Excellent, man. Excellent. Well, job well done again. Love that, we've kind of continued to focus on, the market influence and getting the best of the number and early market entry. Everything went very, very swimmingly this season, I have to say. Let's break down wildcard weekend a little bit. And I guess I want to step back and just sort of say, first ever time in our lives, and we've been football fans for a long time, first ever time in our lives that we have 6 games wildcard weekend. It's exciting. This is a nice novel change to the current, to the typical NFL, way things are done. I like it. I'm excited about 6 games, and we got great matchups. Usually we have 4 games wildcard weekend, and 2, maybe 3 of them are complete throwaways.
There's always the AFC South game where it's like, this is going to be noon, and we did a guessing game on the Sunday pod, and we were 0 for 6, I think. The only thing we nailed is like, they'll let the Saints play on Sunday, so Kamara plays. Like that's the only thing we were able to nail. But usually we do this, and we're guessing when these games will be played, and like, the Texans play the Colts, or the Texans play the Bills. Like, well, that's Sunday. That's Saturday at noon. That's the first one. Mm-hmm. Whereas this one, they were kind of all over the place where they put these. But it is exciting. You get it's like the Thanksgiving Day schedule 2 days in a row. On the weekend, you get a noon, in the middle of the afternoon, and an evening one. It's fantastic. I didn't know how I felt about it's something we've saw a lot in all the sports, whether it's the base runner on second base and extra innings, or some of the things they did with the NBA bubble and how they did the playoffs with the play-ins. Like everybody's just kind of grown accustomed to whatever, make changes this year. We're like, it's the one year you're allowed to just do whatever you want with sports. So I went with it, and it's funny, the main concern was, they're going to let some bad team that doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs in the 7 seed. And it's funny because it turned out to be in the 4 seed. It was going to happen anyway. It was going to happen regardless. Yeah. Whereas some decent teams got left out in the AFC. And I guess, who was the first team out in the NFC? I suppose the Cardinals. Which, again, that's probably a marginal playoff team. They were a fun team at times, but I'm fine with the 14 teams we had. Even you're going to have things happen like what happened in the NFC East, even though that's never quite happened to that degree ever before. So it should be there's 6 pretty fun games this weekend, I think. Yeah, given that Kyler Murray was injured, I think it's fine that we don't get Arizona in this playoffs. Yeah. But that makes Chicago an interesting sacrificial lamb to New Orleans, or will they be? We'll get to that game later. But let's start with let's start at the beginning. We'll dive right in here. Indianapolis Colts head to the Buffalo Bills. Interestingly, a little bit of Colts money is really starting to manifest in the market. I saw BetOnline drop to -6. That was a surprise. I figured this was one-way action when they opened at 6.5. It was going to go to 7. We talked about it on the openers stream on Sunday that we thought -6.5 for the Bills at -105 was going to be the best number we were ever going to see. But no, it's went to 7. It's come back down. There's been some market push-pull here. There are some influential players who apparently are interested in the Colts. I don't know if I can make a case for the Colts. I think we all three are pretty positive on the Bills. I think we've all made a lot of money on the Bills, though. So maybe we're wearing a little, Buffalo-colored glasses to a degree. And I guess we'll give Suma, our illustrious guest. We'll give our illustrious guest opportunity to frame this one. Do you understand sort of this market push-pull, and do you think eventually we see, sort of the closing? The closing money really come in strong for the Buffalo Bills, who have just been rewarding backers week in, week out.
Yeah, so I think if we think in the perspective of a traditional linear power rating, I think it's hard to make a case that the Bills are 6 points better on a neutral field. So I can understand that lots of mathematical models, statistical models, power ratings will not arrive at 6.5 or 7. So I can get behind that. But the matchup for the Bills is so good that I can make a strong case for the Bills here. But overall, I think that some of those models out there and power ratings will not arrive at 7 for this game.
So
Well,
Andy,
what are your power rankings make it, Drew? I mean, let's just all. I mean,
I'm at 4.5.
full agree. Yeah, full agree.
4.5.
I can't. This is not a numbers play. I played the 6.5. I played Buffalo. My numbers disagree. I'm going against model, but again, we're in playoff time, and we'll get into some of the matchups. But yeah, a lot of what Suma said there. The matchups are all of them are advantageous. It feels like, and it doesn't seem like my numbers need to get to 6.5. I don't know if there's a big difference between 6.5 and 4 here. If the game script goes the way I hope and think it goes, I'm not sure it's a close game anyway. So I'm fine laying I just never dreamt there would be a 6 out there. I get the resistance at 7. That makes sense. Take some 7s, fine. But taking the 6.5 on the Colts was surprising to me today as well.
Yeah, we talk about neutral power rating. We talk about I agree. My power numbers would have said 4.5, but I put a little bit of home field advantage in here for Buffalo this week. First game in a while that I've really sprinkled some home field advantage special sauce on a side, because I think, number one, you have a dome team going outdoors into the bitter cold. Number two, Buffalo Bills are going to have fans in the stands. There could be a meaningful impact where the players are excited to play, a little bit more fired up, going up against the Colts with some fan support. Buffalo Bills Mafia is notably
nuts.
Yeah, that's right. So it should, there's reason to explain why there would be a little bit of an adjustment here. Specifically when it comes down to the matchup, I personally think the Bills are going to be tested offensively. You have sort of a zone defense, keep the ball in front of you scheme from the Colts. They've been playing up this season in general. They don't let you hit the home run. That's typically how the Bills have been hurting people over the last handful of weeks. So it's going to be kind of in there. You're going to test a young Josh Allen who's made one ever career playoff start, which was weird. And you're going to ask him to be patient, to matriculate the ball down the field, not get chunks. And I think he can do it. I think we've seen pretty clearly he's capable of doing that. He did that at times during the against the Steelers, for instance, in primetime. That was a notable example. But I don't know that this is going to be just a game where they rip the top off the defense and just score at will. The likelihood that Cole Beasley will be out, I think, impacts them, because I think they could have done some damage underneath with Cole Beasley, and now they're going to have to find some other option. The running game, I don't expect to do much, which really led me to bet an under here at 52. I got yesterday. It's at 51 now. There's been a little bit of buyback here on the over, but ultimately, I think this continues to go down. Do you have an opinion on the over under one way or the other, Suma, or do you think I'm playing with fire, touching an under when the mighty Buffalo Bills, who score 40 points a game, are involved?
No strong opinion on the total. I think it's a fair number, somewhere around 51, 52. I think if it ticks down, I will probably lean towards the over quite a bit, but not a strong opinion either way. I think it's going to be tough for the Colts to hold the Bills below 30 points. And we might get into a game script where the Colts are chasing a lead and we might see some more points in the second half. So that would be my only reservation or counterpoint against that under. But overall, I don't have any real opinion on the total at the current market price.
I'm kind of there too. I don't know. I see the Colts maybe having some success in the ground. I've actually said I may have already found a small prop on the running back Taylor to lead the rushing, to be the rushing leader for the weekend, because I think that is how their game is going to go. So if they continue to pound it and we end up having a lot of running with not successful endings to some of those Colts drives, this one probably stays under pretty easily. I don't know if the Bills would be keeping their foot on the throat like they did last week. That was actually a little surprising how much they just went for the jugular after in a game. And I guess I don't know. They brought in the backup too, and it still scored. So maybe it was just Miami finally just giving up on the dream and saying, "Well, we need some help." But I guess. Go ahead.
I've conceptually for you, Andy. The Bills put a lot of their best stuff on tape in the last half of the season. Could that potentially be a disadvantage? Maybe. I mean, they're going up against a good coaching staff. Frank Reich is good. Like, they're going to have a good game plan. Like, is there a potential that this offense doesn't look as crisp because we have seen so much of what they like to do in the last handful of weeks?
There is, but one of the bigger matchups is, and for me especially, is the pass rush versus the Buffalo offensive line. I'm not keen on the Indianapolis pass rush. I don't think they'll get much done. They're not and it's a weakness for Buffalo. Buffalo, I don't want to say like it's a bad offensive line. It's a quarterback who holds the ball a lot. And, anyone who reads analytics, Twitter, and jokes about quarterback, sacks being a quarterback stat, it kind of is, especially when you have a quarterback who holds the ball this long. But he is mobile. He does seem to have a good pocket presence. He moves around nicely. It's almost like a young Rodgers. Hey, as much as we shit on this kid 2 years ago, just called him a young Rodgers. But in the same way where it's like, man, if you blitzed Rodgers, it's like that was minus EV. It's like, oh, he's just going to roll out and smoke you because one of your safeties is in the backfield and you got whoever running down the seam. So blitzing him is a bad idea. And if your pass rush isn't getting home, he's going to have the time to do what he wants, even without Beasles. I think the pass offense should be just fine. So that's one of the main matchups is just if you can't disrupt him, if the pass offense can work at 80% of top efficiency, they should be able to score. And then it's up to you to try to get your offense going with Phillip Rivers in the cold.
Speaking of Phillip Rivers in the cold, Suma, what is your read on playoff Phil Rivers? You were high on the Colts coming into the season, but I have a funny feeling that you have no interest in backing the Colts in this game. Is some of that because of this matchup, like you mentioned, that you got Phillip Rivers going up against Trey White and a legit passing defense, and he's going to be outdoors, and we just haven't seen it from him this season?
It's funny that I think we actually talked about it in the preseason. We said that we kind of like the Colts. They are going to have a very easy schedule, and then we might have a chance to face them in the postseason. Yes. And that's actually what's happening right now. The Colts offense, I think I really love Phillip Rivers. Absolutely. I was high on them going to the season, but their offense ranks 10th in EPA per play, and they played the easiest schedule in the league. They really played lots of bad defenses, and when they actually played a few good defenses, it was kind of ugly at times. For example, against the Ravens at home, where they barely scored 10 points. Going to the season, we had a very, very strong prior on the Bills defense, basically borderline top 5 material. They started very cold, but they progressed as the season went on. And over the second part of the season, I think over the past 5 or 6 weeks, the Bills defense ranks first in EPA per play, and it's not even close to the second one, I think, the Rams. So they're really coming together. They have the 6th best pass rushing grade from PFF, strong front 7. The Colts will be without Anthony Costanzo, which is a tough blow, in my opinion. So I don't really see how the Colts move the ball consistently. They will probably try to run the ball, but that only works if their defense can contain Allen and they don't fall into a game script where Phillip Rivers has to drop back in the pocket, hold the ball for 3 seconds, look for something downfield, and then gets crushed by the front 7 without his starting left tackle. And I think this is a game script that seems very realistic to me. Like I said, I don't see how the Colts defense gets any significant key stops here. And then the Colts might chase elite, and that could be a disaster in the second half. So, I just think that the Colts offense is a little bit overrated because of their easy schedule. And they might find an enemy in the Bills defense this week.
I love it. It's what you just described sounded a lot like what we saw at Buffalo, Pittsburgh. And I think that this is a pretty similar sort of game. The way this, I think coming out of the gate, the Bills might be a little like they're stuck in mud just because the Colts defense is legit and they haven't played many legit defenses really down the stretch. Nerves might be up for Josh Allen. You know, I mean, it may take a little while for them to settle in, but the chances that the Bills get a defensive score off of Phillip Rivers' turnover is real. The chances that the Bills,
it's not a great
pull
defense,
away.
but they have a great player. You have one really good guy. If you can take away one weapon from that offense, it might really end up with the Colts being stuck in mud, even against a bad defense.
I like what they've gotten pass rush wise lately from AJ. I can't even pronounce his last name. The rookie Espensa. AJ Espensa has been pretty dynamic as a pass rushing weapon late here for him, which has been pretty cool. Going up against an offensive line missing their left tackle, he might have a nice little day. But I think Suma, I think you nailed it. At some point in this game, the Colts are going to be down 2 scores, and at that point, the game is on Phillip Rivers' arm. And it is good night now. I'm happy having an under still, especially given that I've gotten a point of line move in my favor already. And I'm shocked that there's not more Buffalo support, given how good it's been to back them lately. I would have thought there would have been a lot of Buffalo support, but here we are. 6.5 on the opener was a fair play. You guys ready to move on?
Yeah.
28-21 Buffalo Bills. Everybody wins.
I can live with that.
38-0.
38-0 works too. And that's not crazy.
Nothing would be funnier than a Buffalo Bills comeback versus Frank Reich, I guess.
We've seen a game, the first game of Wildcard Weekend, at like 38-0, right?
Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
it happened.
Chiefs Texans.
The sandwich game. it was Chiefs Texans. That's right. The sandwich game here on Saturday is the LA Rams going to the Seattle Seahawks. Andy, do you want to frame this one?
Yeah, let's take a look at this. This is the one that I hoped wouldn't happen, I guess. It's I don't know. We might get some we're waiting for clarity on this one. And again, I framed this the other day and I said the fact that this market is still up. The fact that it's still on the board either means the market's pretty comfortable saying they know who the quarterback will play, or it doesn't matter. And the quarterback, the level that you get from Goff in a McVay offense isn't that different from Wolford. So I guess maybe I lean towards the latter, where the market just doesn't care who plays because they bring different, parts to the offense, where one is a little more mobile but a little less experienced. So either way, you're going against a defense that's I'd hoped it'd improve. The pass rush did with some additions, but you've got an injury with Adams now, and then against an offense that I don't know what happened, man. It's like watching a complete turnaround before your eyes. Like, oh my God, this offense is going to be so fun. As much as I hate the Seahawks year in and year out, I was very excited for them at the beginning of the year. Like, this is fun. What they're doing is awesome. This is how you win in the NFL. And then it just ground to a halt for no reason. Like, I'm not sure why the play calling slowly changed the other way, but it's been a lot less fun to watch this team now. Like, they're both just the Rams now. It's not great, and I guess I lean towards the points. I didn't take it. I could have got a better number here. I haven't bet this. I likely won't. But in a game like this, I guess give me the better defense here. I don't have a strong take on this, so I'll lean on you guys and maybe bounce off that. But I don't know if I can lay points with Seattle against this defense, even at home. Even the fact that they just beat them, you give the better coach time to prepare, even with a backup. I think we have a close game.
I guess that's a good point. The fact that they just played, and it's worth pointing out and acknowledging and raising our hands. The Deep Dive podcast has not been on the right side of Seattle, LA Rams either game this year. I was very, very, very confident Seattle would win game 1. They lost comfortably. You were on Rams game 2. They lost comfortably. I thought the over was a good look in both games. It went dead nuts under both times. This has been a very, very tough one for me to put my finger on what's going on here. But I like your point. Seattle does have the better defense. The Rams very clearly have the better defense. Seattle's defense probably wildly overrated. I mean, they've played some bad teams down the stretch, some real bad ones. They've gone up against Nick Mullins, Jared Goff, Washington football, some of these other teams, Jets, Giants, Eagles. They have gone up against a who's who of nobodies. and it's helped buoy their ranking. I guess. Do you have that similar sense, Suma, that the market in general might be overrating Seattle's defense based on opponents played, and or just the Rams defense being the strongest unit out of the 4 on the field is the distinguishing factor in this handicap?
Yeah, I think so. And I would say not only the Rams defense, I think outside of quarterback and linebacker, I think the Rams are clearly the better team. I would take that Rams coaching staff over the Seattle's every time, if possible. And that Seahawks offense has really fallen off a cliff. They started very well, like Andy has mentioned. But since that, I think it was the Bills game in Buffalo, all of a sudden that offense has not been clicking anymore. I can't really tell you what it is exactly. Maybe defenses have caught up. Maybe Scott Neimer calls the same stuff all over again. Russell Wilson seems like he's holding the ball too long. That puts too much stress on the offensive line that is still not very good at all. And then all of a sudden that offense is not working. Over the second half of the season, they are just an average offense in EPA per play. Since week 13, they are 23rd in EPA per play, worse than the Rams offense, for what it's worth. So I'm not necessarily saying that the offensive splits over the second half are more predictive for this game, but something just doesn't feel right with this offense, and they're playing against the, in my opinion, best defense in the league. They got three really good cornerbacks who can match up with Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Jalen Ramsey is giving up 20 yards per game in his coverage, which seems nuts in such a high-scoring season. That offensive line of the Seahawks should get ripped, and during the first 2 games, the Rams held them to 16 and 20 points. And if they can do this again, and I don't know a lot of reasons why they couldn't, the Rams are live in this game, in my opinion. And I'm currently expecting Goff to play at 75%. He has been taking snaps on Sunday on the side. He's been taking snaps yesterday. Doc Chow said that he expects Goff to play. So I'm currently thinking that Goff is going to play. They get Cooper Kupp back. They get Andrew Whitworth back, which is a major boost for this offensive line.
Yes.
Whitworth was the highest graded left tackle by PFF before his injury, I guess. So
that's flying under the radar too. You're the first person I've heard say
everybody
that.
wants to talk quarterback, but Whitworth injury, like 5-6 weeks ago. That was somebody who was not playing in the second matchup, and like it's still a point of contention here on the deep dive that I liked the Rams in the first matchup as well, and Drew liked Seattle enough where I just passed in the game, and then he grew. And I talked to you out of the other side of the second quarter. Like we just always talk each other out of the winning bet on Rams Seattle games, so maybe it's one best left alone, and I'll just put a small tickle on like Rams minus. Maybe I'll just bet like Rams minus 2.5.
Well, so here's the thing: is you're about to have to make that very difficult decision because these 3.5s are about to disappear.
Yeah.
This is probably about to go to Rams +3 by the time that this, and I guess if Suma is correct and Goff is announced in, there will likely be some market support for the Rams based on that injury news alone, right? Like people will rush to bet that just to get that number, expecting it to move, right? Regardless of whether it's the right move or not, right? Regardless, right? But so I think you're going to have to make a tough decision of, okay, at some point, am I taking the 3 points with the Rams or am I just backing the money line here? One of the reasons you should have strongly considered taking the points with the Rams earlier is because Seattle plays close games. I don't actually have any theory at all, and I haven't heard anyone smart who covers football come up with a very clear answer to this. And it's especially weird because there are so many smart people who cover football who love the Seahawks, live and die by the Seahawks. But it has been a tale of 2 offenses this season. The first 8 weeks, they scored 30 plus in every game except the Vikings game where they scored 27.
Which was just, and all those points were after halftime. They went into
yeah,
halftime with 0 points.
Yes.
The offense was just, I don't know why they came out sleepy, but they came out in the second half and put up 27 on the Vikes.
Yep. And then flip that on its head over the last 8 weeks of the season, starting with the Rams game. Interestingly, they have only scored over 30 points once, and that was against the Jets. A ton of those points also were turnover assisted. So it has really been strange to see, because we see this with defense all the time, and I don't even think twice about it anymore. Right? Where first 8 weeks of the season, you have one defense, second 8 weeks, it's totally different. I don't know that I've ever seen this with offense. I don't think it's entirely based on strength of opponent. This is a team that scored 37 against the Niners the first time they played and could only come up with 26 the second time. And that 26 was a ton of garbage time points when that game got away. They were not moving the ball well or running clean, efficient offense at all early in that game against the Niners. I don't know. Do you have any theories, Andy, as to what the hell happened to Russell Wilson in this offense?
I don't understand it either. And here, somebody in the chat just said, Seattle went from the #1 pass rate on early downs in week 1 through 9 to the 13th the rest of the season. I have no idea why. Yeah, the scheme just changed, and I don't know. It was successful. I mean, it's still a team and that's what the problem with this is. They were still a successful team. They still won their division. They still made the playoffs. So, how are they going to say, "Oh, we need to go back to the drawing board next year"? No, we won our division again. We're a good team. So, it sucks because if they would just stick with this, they could be the Chiefs West. This offense was fun. This offense was high flying and it was working. And they have some pieces of work. I honestly have no reasoning why they would change it other than the men that run the show. I don't know if it was something funny like we saw in Dallas with the Kellen Moore 2 years ago, where there's a couple weeks and it's like, oh, it's looking like this is a different Dallas offense, and then slowly it went back like, oh, they threw to Witten like 9 times today, and like, oh, this is like, whoever. It's like it was turning back into the Garrett show. I don't know if they let someone have some say in the offense, and then but that theory doesn't hold water, because why would you change it when it's working so well? So it's like they flipped a switch, and it doesn't make sense why.
So you think it's a case of shooting themselves in the dickitis? This is pretty much,
yes,
it's self-inflicted. This is self-inflicted.
Through it and then right into the foot. They shot themselves in the dick and the foot.
Okay. Well, DK Metcalf getting matched up against Jalen Ramsey is fun. That should be a great matchup. Aaron Donald going up against Russell Wilson is going to be fun. I support the Rams here. I mean, just from an interest, I guess I don't hate the idea that the Rams move on and play. We'll talk about who they would likely play, but it's tough for me to see that there's going to be an upset in the other 2 NFC games, which would mean the Rams would head to Green Bay. I want to see that matchup badly. I want to see Aaron Rodgers tested with this defense badly. And so I guess I'll cheer for a Rams upset here. And honestly, I can't make a case for many more of the dogs on the card, which is a little spooky. I'm struggling to find another dog besides the Rams that I have any interest in this week. And sure enough, they're probably going to be the smallest dog once it's all said and done, as this market kind of moves its way to 3. All right, good shit. Let's move on. Tampa Bay, Washington football team. I will frame this one by saying this is a tricky handicap. There are a lot of signs. There is a lot of historical I don't want to say trends, but signal that tells you that Tom Brady and Tampa Bay are not up to that they're kind of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde offense when it comes to the strength of the defense they're facing. When they're going up against a poor defense, they light the world on fire. They can't be stopped. They are only scoring as many points as they feel like scoring. When they go up against a top defense, with specifically a defense that has strength on the defensive line in the front 7, they look very different. I would point to the Saints games as an example. I would point to the Rams game as an example, the Bears game as an example, even the Giants game to a degree. which was, by the way, in prime time. In fact, Tom Brady, if you go back and look at his last 7 primetime games, he is 1-6 straight up. His only win was against the Giants as a double-digit favorite, and he is 0-7 against the spread.
I've seen him lose against the Giants a couple times in primetime.
Yeah. And it was because the Giants had some of the world's best pressure up front. That said, there's some nuance. There's some differences between what Washington does in terms of generating pressure and what has historically flummoxed Brady. I would say Brady in a vacuum, Brady's had a very easy schedule down the stretch. But if you just look over the last 5 weeks, the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL, and it's not close, are Lamar Jackson and Tom Brady. Who would have believed that? But he has gone up against weak defenses, and he has just lit the world on fire. Now, Mike Evans is a little limited with the hamstring. He probably goes. The offensive line is missing. Who are they? They're going to be missing AQ Shipley. He retires, right? But he may not be the most important piece on that offensive line. They got a little bit of inexperience at the tackle with Tristan Wirfs. Clearly, Ali Marpet isn't playing at the same high level that we saw from him earlier in the season before his concussion. So there are a lot of red flags here about laying the points with Tampa, which means this is kind of a Washington or nothing in the way I look at this game. And when I saw the report that Ron Rivera was going to give both quarterbacks a chance to be a part of this game plan, then that pretty quickly became nothing. Is Washington football or nothing? Okay, nothing. I'm out. Right.
I also go back to this example. I mean, just real quick, you talked about the pass rush. This is maybe the only thought I have in this game because I'm with you. I'm out because of the uncertainty with the Washington quarterback situation. But you talked about how this pass rush attacks, how this team can be attacked by a pass rush. And I think back to the year that the Patriots went up against some very good pass rushes, and McDaniels switched up the offense where Brady was just firing it at like a second and a quarter. Like the average time to get the ball out was ridiculously fast, way faster than he was during the regular season. It worked beautifully. And I just don't think Arians is going to do that. Like, he's not capable of changing his offense to be, let's get the ball out fast. It's just antithetical of what he does with offense. And so I worry about the pass rush, but then again, I worry about Taylor Heineke playing. So I don't want to play this game. I don't want to bet this game. But if you gave me money and said it had to be wagered on this, it would probably be Washington or the under, I guess.
So Suma, you've had a great read on Tampa this year, in my opinion. You've picked a couple of really nice spots to back them, and they've rewarded you. You have been opposite me on the Matchbook Pod a couple times where I was banging the drum that Brady's washed, he's done, he's cooked, he's not worth backing. As you look at Tampa in this game, do you think they get through comfortably or get through, 90% of the time? And do you think they have any chance beyond that in the playoffs, given sort of their potential path?
Yes, I'm holding a couple of Tampa Bay future Super Bowl and NFC Championship. I think I took them right after Antonio Brown got signed. I think I got 10-1 on Super Bowl and 5-1 on the NFC. I think, first of all, Brady's playing a great season so far. And over the past 4 weeks, they have been on fire completely. I think they are the second best offense in EPA per play right after Green Bay. Of course, they played some really bad defenses, but the Falcons defense has actually been playing very well since Dan Quinn got fired, and they gave some really good offenses a lot of trouble throughout the season. And Brady just completely shredded them within 6 quarters, starting in the second half of the first Falcons game. And what you can also see over the past few weeks is that they increased their play action rate. They have more motion pre-snap. And I feel I should look it up, but I feel like they are trying to attack Rob Gronkowski more vertically than they did before. So, and what's also very important, I think, over the first half of the season, They ranked like 20th or 21st in neutral game state early down passing rate, and they have been ranking, I think, 7th over the past 5, 6, 7 weeks. So they have clearly changed their offense a little bit, more play action, more motion, more early down passing, and maybe we see some more of the quick passing game, because it's obvious that they are trying to change something. I think this is pretty nuts to say. They lost Mike Evans maybe for this week, and I still don't really worry about their offense because they got Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, and Rob Gronkowski, which is pretty crazy to say. I think, or I expect some more quick passing games, some more play action, and I can lay the points with the Bucks here. I think the number is spot on. I took Bucks in a teaser to close out a teaser. I lean a little bit towards the under because I don't see the Washington football team getting anything going. And those would be my only looks in this game.
Yeah, you kind of nailed. Like I was going to ask you immediately after you finished up. Like, what do you think about putting the Bucks in the teaser leg? It's at an 8.5. I mean, it's the perfect spot. Even road favorites aren't traditionally great, but this is a strange spot, being a playoff game, possibly against Taylor Heineke or Alex Smith with 2/3 of his calf. So yeah, I like this as a teaser leg as well. Under, I just don't have a match for it, and it might end up being an open teaser for me if I can figure out who will let me do that and still give me a good price, because those seem to be mutually exclusive.
Yeah, right now it looks like New Orleans is teaser protected. I don't love what value you're getting on Tennessee or Rams teasing them across 7.
No,
so
it'll likely be an open.
I mean, Bills, you could get down to -1. You don't get the 7, but you capture 6, 4, 3, 2.
Yeah, what sucks is and it's so little to begin with, but yeah, we talked about that a little yesterday with Eric. Is when it was 6.5, like teasing at 6.5 is, there's such a small little bit of a push on a tie, but it's completely gone in the playoffs. So
that's a great point.
Teasing to a half, you're teasing to, or teasing to 0 is teasing to a half anyway. So it makes it a weird situation. But if there's some late steam there, I could add that, or it'll probably end up being an open one if I can figure that out.
Okay. Well, I played the under here. I played it earlier in the week at a better number, but I still see some value at 45. Again, there are enough red flags that you're going to, I guess, if you're afraid to punch an under on a Washington football team game, it's because you're afraid that the other team is going to score 40-something points. It's not because you're afraid Washington's going to go score for score. Am I right about that? I mean, I don't think anyone in the world right now is looking at the Washington football team offense and saying, I don't know, maybe they get off today, right? Like, this is a team.
Is it correlated? If you like Tampa, if you like to lay the points,
yeah.
I think there's a little bit of correlation there.
Yeah, no, because I mean, in terms, if you're talking about like what is the range of
Washington and the under being correlated more than anything, I think.
Yeah, I think there is.
I don't think they go score for score and stay within it ended up being 32-24.
Right. The big uncertainty in this game is, can the Washington football team put a lid on Tampa's offensive ceiling? Yeah. That's the big question. And if they do, then they stay inside the number. If they don't, then Tampa Bay covers. But you make a great point. There is some correlation here. I'm going to explore that a little bit in terms of see if there's some value in same game parlaying that. But I played under 47. I think this one is I think there are enough red flags about Tampa and Tom in prime time against a good D line with a little bit of limitations to his receiving core and
on terrible turf.
And guess what? Like I get it. Like, they've done some great things in Tampa this year offensively. I don't think Byron Leftwich and Bruce Arians are ever going to be my guys to run an offense. I don't think that their vision really matches up with they can't evaluate what they have especially well. And here's, what? There's one specific reason that I like the under in this game, and his name is Leonard Fournette. and his hands are going to touch this ball. His hands are going to touch this
Every
ball.
time he touches the ball, the point
Like
total
10 times,
should
his
drop.
hands are going to touch this ball. And 5 of those touches might be carries. 5 of those touches might be targets, and he might catch one of those 5 targets. But whatever the case is, every time Tom Brady does a swing pass to Leonard Fournette, and he gets tackled for a 2-yard loss, or they do some garbage, run up the middle with him, and he gets buried in the backfield, it is going to be like time off the clock, a little bit of a breather for the Washington football team, and potentially a drive killer. And for whatever reason, they just can't see past that and evaluate their own team and know what would make a more effective and more dynamic offense overall against a team with a good defense. So under is the play for me here. And I got a lot of unders this weekend, actually, interestingly.
Wonderful.
Wonderful wild card weekend.
On to Sunday.
I'm going to step back and let you guys take this away because I am obviously blinded by bias for my Ravens. So Andy, go right ahead, please.
I do like your Ravens, but I think the number is pretty good. I made the case earlier that I would be fine going against my number in the Buffalo game. But I was able to back that up with some matchup evidence, or just multiple matchups that I thought were going to go against the team that I disagreed with number-wise. In this case, I do like to stay away from this one as well, because I don't think, you have that dichotomy of I need to wait to see if this team is actually good, or I know something that the market doesn't know and I'm going to get ahead of it. And I'm not comfortable being in the latter, where I'm not sure if Baltimore is good. Like, I know they're good, but I don't know if they're good. You know what I'm saying? They beat the tar out of some really bad teams, and their offense is clicking and the defense is clicking. And even when they're giving up some yardage, they're stopping those drives with turnovers or turning people back. But again, the level of competition has been so low. The only thing I can say about this game is if the Baltimore offense has found its stride, the play calling, the scheming, the play sequencing, all of the things that you add up to equal, a successful offense, if they were able to put that together over these last few weeks against bad teams, the Tennessee defense, Tennessee is a bad team if you look at their defense. Like, they have a good offense, but like their defense isn't that far removed from Cincinnati, Jacksonville, teams like that. It's not like I say Baltimore played bad teams, and we saw the results. Well, Baltimore is playing a better team, and their offense isn't. Their offense is still going to be playing a bad team. This Tennessee defense can be beat up. So, you see what the total is. It's mid-50s for a team two teams that do enjoy running the ball quite a bit, and we're still at 54.5. So, if the Baltimore offense shows out, they probably cover this number. I have no interest in laying over a field goal, though. If you want to lay the points of Baltimore, I'd sell it to like 6. I think they win. They win. They win big. The offense works. The defense shows up. This is probably the one I'm going to watch the most of. Like, I'm going to watch all these games, obviously, but I'm going to watch this the most intently.
Okay.
And that's where I stand. I won't be betting it.
Suma, can you fill me with confidence about my Baltimore Ravens?
Oh yeah,
I'll make the counter because it's anytime you have a position, it's important to kind of do a little bit of self-evaluation. You don't want to be caught up in the emotion of whatever position you have. And I obviously have a very strong position on the Ravens to go far in these playoffs. And this is a big high leverage spot because a ton of equity comes out of them winning this game. And the fact that they're huge favorites, that I like that. It makes me feel, relatively comfortable, but I can make some case for Tennessee, but I'm curious first, what is the case for Baltimore? I guess, do you have a position on Baltimore?
Yeah.
Okay.
I took the Ravens -3 yesterday. I think -108 or -110 when it was basically at the best price available for the Ravens. I just think that the Ravens have a very, very good matchup for the Titans, which might a little bit stupid after the Titans just upset the Ravens earlier in the season. But I want to talk about this game briefly. In that game, I had Titans +6. And I didn't feel we had Titans +6, but it's safe to say we didn't feel confident about the ticket throughout the game.
100%
the Titans had a lot going on for them. The Ravens have a very, very good rush defense this season, but in this game, they were without Calais Campbell, without Brendan Williams, their two best run defender on the defensive line. They lost linebacker LJ Ford, I think, in the second quarter. They lost Jimmy Smith in the second quarter. And despite all those holes in their defense on paper, they held Derrick Henry to 44 rushing yards on 18 carries going to the fourth quarter. So they basically shut down the Titans offense for 3 quarters. Derrick Henry couldn't do anything in this game. The Ravens had a 21-10 lead going into the fourth quarter, I guess, or late in the third. And then all of a sudden, I think when defensive linemen play 50, 60 snaps against the Titans, Derrick Henry might break out a couple of runs. But still, the Titans needed a 3rd and 10 late in the game, 2 minutes to go. Tannehill threw the ball short of the sticks, and AJ Brown broke 4 tackles. 4 tackles with basically 3 guys holding his jersey and whatever, and then he scored the go-ahead touchdown. So the Titans had a lot of things going on. I think now the Titans have a very bad defense. They have maybe the worst front 7 in the league right now. With all those injuries also piling up during the season. They lost Jurel Casey before the season, which was their best run defender last season, also in that game against the Ravens. I don't really see how the Titans defensively are able to contain the Ravens offense that has been playing on a superb level recently. And on the other side, like I said, the Ravens have a very good run defense. They are almost in full strength defensively. And they have 3 cornerbacks who can play man-to-man against Corey Davis and AJ Brown. Then what's also important to me in this game is the game script and the philosophy of Arthur Smith and Mike Rabel. The Titans have shown us over and over again, they don't care who their opponent is. They just try to run the ball early and often, and they play action off of it. Against the Broncos early in the season, their run game was not really working well. They kept doing it. Against the Steelers, they came out with a 1-1 approach against the best front 7 in the league at this point. At that point back then, they ran the ball the entire first half, and I think they scored their first points just prior to halftime. Against the Packers, they tried to run the ball. They couldn't. They basically stopped running the ball when it was way too late. So in this game, I think they will try what they always try to do. The Ravens could be ahead with 2 scores, and then it's basically Ryan Tannehill dropping back behind a bad offensive line that cannot pass protect and might be with our left guard Roger Saffold against a really, really good Ravens defense in full strength, and that could get ugly throughout the game if the Titans are not able to score. That's why I happily take the Ravens -3. I think that number moved to -3, -120 right now. I would still take that, but I would not play the -3.5.
Okay, that's fair.
That's fair. I had almost forgotten about that AJ touchdown. That was
I had totally forgotten about that.
They were more. It was more like tickles than tackles. It looked like that they had their hands on them, but somehow their hands had no friction. And he just moved away from people. It was one of the damnedest plays I've ever saw. How he was surrounded and he just walked through them as if he had superpowers. Like that was an odd touchdown. And I mean, he's a full grown man.
You bring up a great point. I never felt comfortable about that Titans +6 until that game was over. Even in overtime, I was like, great, it's gonna be a push. It never felt good. And Titans were getting 6 in that game. Granted, it was on the road. Home field advantage is worth nothing. And the Ravens were not the same team they are now. Like they have completely upgraded their playbook. They are running the good plays, for lack of a better way of describing it. Lamar Jackson substantially more. He's showing us substantially more athleticism now than he was then. And you're getting a discount price. You're getting it at 3.5 instead of 6. So All right, no, I get it. Or you got it at 3 instead of 6. So, nice play. Okay, so the case for the Titans is pretty straightforward in my opinion. Yes, their defense stinks, but they stink against the pass. And we did see Lamar Jackson kind of rediscover his athleticism and his ability to make dynamic plays on the ground over the last half of the season. But we still have yet to see him develop any chemistry with this poor wide receiving core. They really only just have the one pass play that's anything noteworthy, and that is Andrews up the seam. Okay. And for whatever it's worth, last year in the playoffs, the Titans came in with the game plan where they said, we are taking that play away at all costs. We're taking that play away. Beat us down the sidelines if you're going to beat us. And Lamar Jackson couldn't do it. Now, will that same exact game plan work this time around? I can't tell you, but I do think there is some question about Baltimore being able to specifically take advantage of where the Titans are the most vulnerable, for a lack of a better way of describing it. Similarly, the Ravens, your points about the Ravens being at full strength on defense are very valid. They are. They had a tough time getting off the field when they went up against the physical rushing attack of the Patriots this season. They had a tough time getting off the field, against physical rushing attack of the Cleveland Browns in that Monday Night Football game that they won 47-42. Like, they needed to stop late in that game, and they just couldn't get it. And a lot of it was, the physicality that Cleveland brought into that game. And that is what Tennessee likes to do first and foremost, is get physical with you. Derrick Henry, specifically.
Everywhere except the pass rush. There, it's much more
That's
dainty
true.
along the
That's
defensive
true.
line.
But at the same time, that's exactly like not having a good pass rush is a huge problem. Is a huge problem going up
against the pocket passer.
Exactly. Yeah. It is not a huge problem going up against a guy who kind of wants you to get your guys in the backfield running downhill so that he can slip through the gap and he's gone for 10 yards, right? Like it's
like
not
what I said with Josh Allen, or comparing it to Rodgers when, the pocket's collapsed. Well, sorry, he's outside of the pocket throwing to his tight end, or he's 7 yards upfield already. The collapsing the pocket isn't paramount to stopping Lamar.
Right. And so it's not the exact perfect. It's a little bit square peg round hole in terms of what the Ravens do well and where you can really, really make the Titans bleed. And I think we've seen what, how you can make the Titans bleed a lot this season. And so I think the signal is pretty strong. All that said, Derrick Henry has carried the ball so many freaking times. He really, great. He got 200 yards last week against the Texans defense that couldn't stop anyone. But he has carried quite the load this season. And if he still has fresh legs, then he is superhuman. I don't know that he's going to have much of an impact or much of a say on how this game gets played out at all. I love the fact that you have a healthy D-line, Brandon Williams, and Judon's playing great this season. They got Wolf in there as a replacement guy. He's a fair run stopper. Calais Campbell, I don't know what to expect really. He hasn't looked himself over the last half of the season. It should be a great game. Ravens just get us a win. They got the better special teams. They got the better coaching. Just get to the next round. That was me knocking on wood. I'm knocking on wood here.
Oh, I missed it. I couldn't see your hands. All right. Well, I like Baltimore at a 3 a lot better than where it currently sits.
Okay. All right. That sounds fair. You guys ready to move to the Big Easy? I'll tee this one up. New Orleans Saints, 10-point favorites at home against a team from the NFC North. Where have we heard that before?
We've been down this road.
No way they could lose. Put
them in a money line parlay.
Two-score favorite against a suspect NFC North team that snuck into the playoffs. Never heard this before. I have a little bit of problem with this line being out to 10 and a half. To me, that looks like a number that reflects home field advantage, which
it's a big home field advantage in the past.
Sure.
You're noisy. Having a dome playoff, there is a certain level where things get jacked up for the playoffs. I've been to Twins games in the Metrodome, and I've been to Twins playoff games in the Metrodome. And in one of those situations, you can hear yourself. Like the noise levels that you can get inside of a dome stadium is wild. And, just where we're at this year, that's a big part of why home field is gone, not only affecting the other team's offense, but the ref bias. So, I think the number's probably long too, but I'm kind of stuck at the same point where this number's too big, but do I want to be sitting there with a Bears ticket when I finally watch, a team that I've railed on this for weeks? It's like, oh, here they're going to have to re-sign Mitch because he gets to play like the Lions and the Vikings and the Jag. I can't remember who we all play. A bunch of bad teams in a row.
Do you want me to I got him in front.
Hoping Dallas. Was it Dallas?
Do you want me to reel off the list? So
reel off the Mitch performances to close the year.
Mitch came in against the Green Bay Packers week 12. He scored 25 points, most of them garbage. Then he got to face the Lions, the Texans, the Vikings, and the Jaguars. He went against 4 of the 5 worst defenses in the NFL in consecutive
And he looked
weeks.
good. And now he's going to get an extension, and the Bears the groundhog has shown its head. The Bears are screwed for 6 more years or whatever works out. We saw more of what the Bears offense should look like against the Green Bay defense that I'm not super high on, but it's a better team than clearly those teams. So I think while the number is a little big, you're paying a bit of a premium. I'm thinking the Bears offense is a lot closer to what we saw versus the Packers than what we saw versus any of those bad defenses. And look, I mean, the Saints pass rush is better than the Packers pass rush. The Saints defense is better than the Packers. Like it's a bad matchup. It's on the road, and it's a lot of points. I probably won't be laying it, but I don't think it would take a miracle to talk me into a Bears ticket. If they backdoor it, so be it. The playoffs are a little different with backdoors, but I'm kind of out on this one. I'm not excited that the Bears got in. It makes for a bad game.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Suma, you can articulate this a little bit, but I feel like we were shown pretty clearly last week what Mitch Trubisky and this Bears offense looks like against a defense that is competent and that is trying hard, and it's not good. They only scored 16 points against the We both had an over ticket on that, and it got home thanks to a garbage time Green Bay score, which was not how I saw that going at all. Happy to have it come home, but I did not expect that. What is your read on this Bears offense? What is their ceiling? What is their potential in this game? And is there any advantage matchup in any way, shape, or form for Chicago to score points in this one?
I don't really think so. Mitch Trubisky looked good against bad defenses, but the problem is that he looked good, but the offense didn't play or didn't put up huge efficiency numbers. For example, I think the Bears over that magic stretch against 4 bad defenses, they averaged around 0.22 or 0.25 EPA per play. And on that same easy stretch that the Ravens had, they were averaging 0.15 EPA per play more. So just to put it into perspective, the Bears came back to earth against the Packers. I think the Saints defense is better than the Packers. They can easily shut down the run against that below average offensive line and
offense.
Yeah, exactly. And on the other side, the Bears defense, which we thought was pretty good, ranks 22nd in EPA per pass on the season. They've been playing with basically practice squad cornerbacks, which didn't help. But even if Jalen Johnson and Buster Screen are back this week, Jalen Johnson is a rookie. He had a solid season, but it's still a rookie playing against the Drew Brees offense. Buster Screen is not good at all. And the Bears, the only strength of their defense is their defensive line. And this is something that the Saints can negate with a very good offensive line. So I don't really see how the Bears could give them a foot race in the end. I think the number is a tad high, but I can rather make a case for the Saints than I can for the Bears. and so I'm just passing on this game.
Yeah,
I might bet.
Go ahead.
I might bet the Bears team total under. I think it's 70.5 right now. This would be something I would look on the side.
Secret podcast, team total. Oh, it's happening. We didn't even have to think of one. Somebody did it for us. This is nice. Yeah, if you go every time I'm watching like Red Zone or other games and I'm tracking and you see someone scored in a Bears game, if you just are like looking at score bugs and Italy, there's a lot of B screen in coverage. It's like, whoever caught a touchdown, screen in coverage. Yeah, he gets beat a lot. I don't think getting him and the rookie back it's likely an upgrade over the replacement players, but it's not some massive upgrade like, oh my God, we got our star defenders back. It's still a middling defense at this point. So yeah, that's
season.
I always call him Buster Skrine too. I can't get that's like my John Eisner thing. I'm glad Suma said his name first because I always screw it up. I'm with you on that. I like that team total look a little.
Hey Andy, I got a question for you.
I'm here for you.
The Saints haven't covered a playoff game at home since 2012.
Ooh.
In fact, under Sean Payton, they are 2-6 against the spread at home. Is that signal or noise?
It's 8 games. It's noise, right? Unless you're paying a premium for home dome field advantage. I
suppose you might be. Average line is minus 6.5 in these games. Yeah, the average line was almost a touchdown in these games, and for whatever reason, Drew Brees and his noodle arm just can't get the cover home.
You know what the difference is here? It's Taysom time.
It's Taysom time.
I actually, we'll move on after this, but because I don't want to talk about Taysom Hill all day.
Well, I played the under 47. Should I be nervous that Taysom Hill runs amok?
Well, no, I don't think he runs amok, but like all the teasing we did about like, oh, what kind of pictures does he have of Breeze or of Sean Payton naked or what's going on here? Like they've actually found some ways to use him effectively. He's a scary receiver. Like he's not gonna be effective every down receiver, but with the ball in his hands, he's a good runner, and you can design some plays that are that add to this offense. And just how this offense has been clicking this year at times. I mean, go back to the Tampa game. We just talked up a Tampa defense for a bit, and we saw New Orleans in the most fun we've ever had betting a game this year by far was New Orleans just going down and scoring on every drive, except the one they fumbled one like inside the 5, and we're still up like 4 touchdowns at half. We were talking garbage time in the third quarter. So I think this offense, fully loaded, fully healthy offense, is one of the better ones we've seen from the Saints over the years.
Do you think this total ticks back up if we get confirmation that Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas are good to go?
I think so. Yeah, I don't think the total comes down if you have offensive players coming back. I guess
I'm curious. Like, do you think the market has already absorbed that they're going to go, and that this 47 is?
I think Kamara, yes, because of the fact that it's played on Sunday. I think they're saying Kamara should play, but the MT thing, it might tick up a little off that. I'm not saying it's going to go to 49, but you might be able to buy some more if you need to refill.
Do you have a read on Drew Brees, Suma? You watched him play against Kansas City on his first game back. Does he have the goods to make a run this year in the playoffs?
I would not say he has not. I watched a YouTube video. I can't remember the channel. It's a guy who does lots of good, great, and quick breakdowns of some games. And he basically showed that the Chiefs defense played the Saints perfectly. They basically played perfect coverage. They took away everything that the Saints had. They didn't have Michael Thomas, but Chiefs defense did a very good job. It was the first game for Drew Brees coming off his injury. I'm not already concerned about Brees at all. I think they are going to figure it out with Michael Thomas back.
Okay. Interesting. We got some Saints tickets at a very nice price that I got to think long and hard about. I guess Yeah, this is. I was going to bring it up. Is this going to be Drew Brees' last ever game in the Superdome? Probably not. They're going to get a win. They're the 2 seed. They'll host next weekend if they win. So he still has one more home game in the dome, probably. But yeah, I played an under here. It's not my strongest position of the week. I just grabbed it because I thought it was going to go back down. I thought the opener was fair to play the under, and it went up to 48. And then I was like, okay, well, this is too good to be true. So I grabbed it there. I don't think we see a 48 again. Maybe we do, but I like the team total on the Bears a little bit better at this point. And a lot of it just because, the Saints defense is legit. They're good. They beat up on a lot of bad teams, sure. But they have stepped up and gotten pass rush when asked. Marshawn Lattimore is a great cover player. And, they're at relatively full strength. So this should be a solid effort from them. And hopefully they just they shut the Bears out, and I don't have to worry too much about it. Either way.
20-0 sounds great.
I'll take 35-0. I really don't care. Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we move
the
to
nightcap, the final game?
Andy, do you want to do the honor? Handicapping your Pittsburgh Steelers?
My Pittsburgh Steelers. You know what? They're kind of my Browns a little too. I've fallen in love with a little bit of what they do on offense, which is troubling. It's troubling because the guy who calls the offensive plays is COVIDed up. And we're at a point now where there's no shot these people who test positive are playing, coaching, anything. It's not, we're not going to be doing this in the postseason. We're not going to be, we'll play this next Wednesday. Like they're not going to do stuff like that. So it sucks because it was painfully apparent that Cleveland never had this under control. They had people testing positive every week for like the last month. They didn't move games around. They let this go, and here we are. And it sucks. It sucks for Cleveland because this should have been a really good game, and maybe it still will be. And I seen some quotes from Stefanski today saying that he has confidence in Van Pelt, who coached in the NFL Europe. I think
Can you hear me?
Quarterback. What? You lost my sound?
Oh, you're back.
Oh, I was just kind of trailing off talking about NFL Europe because I don't know why. I think Van Pelt was the quarterback coach for the Galaxy.
That was on me. Please go ahead.
But no, anyway, Stefanski says he has faith, but what else is he going to say? Like, oh, hey guys, Stefanski press conference here over the Zoom. Yeah, we're shit out of luck. Nobody knows the plays but me. We're dead. Like, what else is he going to say in these pressers? So it'll be interesting to see, what happens with the rest of the week if they have any more positives. But this game's a mess. This sucks. It sucks for a guy like Bitonio. It's people that have been on this team for a while, because there are a few vets who've played for this team for a few years. And
what's his name?
Bitonio. I can't say his name.
I'm making a joke because I screwed it up earlier, but
I can't say it. I can. Is it Bitonio?
Yeah.
Sometimes I leave out the I. I'm terrible with Italians. Apparently, I can't get their names right. Bitonio. It's a me.
Joel Bitonio.
He might not even be Italian. It's just got to know at the end. But I say Buster Scribe.
No. Franco, our Italian friend, said he is Italian. Oh yeah, this is an Italian.
Oh yeah, name. I was gonna say I have a guy I can check with on this.
Bitonio.
Yeah,
I'll send you the clip of him reading it so you can hear it. It sounds exactly right coming out from an Italian voice.
Don't quote me on this, but I think he's been with the team for like a decade or something.
Oh yeah, a long time. Yeah.
And now he doesn't get to play in their first playoff game ever. So heartbreaking for stuff like that for some of these players who've been with the team. But here we're still gonna have a game. We're at 6. It's in Pittsburgh. It's a game we've played twice this year already. One though was quite different with some players out for Cleveland, like they have every week, like I've said, and then Mason Rudolph starting at quarterback, as well as your starting center, several of your edge rushers, wide out. I feel like one defensive secondary piece sat out as well. They had 6 or 7 important pieces sit out. I don't have a strong lean now that it's out to 6. Like that might be too far. But I think my one takeaway from this game is Big Ben will play better now that he's rested. He didn't even get on the bus. He didn't leave his house. He stayed on his couch last weekend. just having a few suds, eating some pretzels. He's rested. Like, that makes a difference for him. Though that 1 week where he didn't have to practice, I thought he looked good, where he just faked an injury and then stayed at home all week, I think. Or no, it was he had close contact or something, and then he didn't have to practice at all. So he looks good when he's rested. I think Big Ben might come out and play like he played at the beginning of the year. And I won't have a wager in this one, but I will be very excited to watch. Hopefully it's a really good game on both sides offensively, because there are so many offensive stars in this, for the running backs for Cleveland, all the receivers for Pittsburgh, and I don't know, I guess Baker, if you want to throw him in there.
I guess speaking of Baker, Andy, actually I'll go to Suma. Do you make much of the playoff debutante? I don't want to say curse. It's not really a curse, but playoff, the guys making their first playoff start really just underperforming to a degree that seems impossible to be noise. I mean, I'll just pull up the numbers. Since 2002, since we've had a wild card format, we've had 59 quarterbacks that have made playoff debuts. We're going to throw out 12 of those because he had two guys playing each other, so that doesn't tell us anything. But of the other 47, the debutantes are 15-32 straight up, 13-33-1 against the spread. That's not good. Is there any reason to be concerned about the Browns, regardless of the number here, just because there's a chance that Baker Mayfield looks like a pumpkin?
I think there's some signal there. There must be something to it, because that trend really looks strong, and we can make some causal explanations for it. Maybe it's the pressure in the first game. It's that defenses have their full attention on the quarterback in a very meaningful playoff game. It has to be something like that. Maybe lots of those guys have also road games, because young quarterbacks tend not to get the best seats in the conference. Maybe there's some fuel to it.
That's a great point. I hadn't thought of that.
It could possibly. I wouldn't be surprised if Baker Mayfield has a stinker game without your starting left guard, who's pretty good, without your play caller, who has been pretty amazing this season, in my opinion. Against a very stout Steelers front seven that could potentially dominate the line of scrimmage and put some heat on Baker Mayfield. And we have seen in the past that as soon as you can get pressure on Baker, things turn down south pretty quickly. So I can definitely see a path where Baker Mayfield is struggling a lot in this game. Overall, I think that number is fine. I was interested in the over early in the season. Then came the COVID news, and now I'm just passing on that game. But I think the key, which would have been also the key for me for that over, is that I don't really see how the Browns defense plays really well. They have some injuries going on. Olivier Vernon, they might get Denzel Ward back, but I don't think the secondary is good at all. Kind of a weak linebacking corps on the defensive line. They basically only have Myles Garrett as a strong pass rusher. So I can see Big Ben putting up some points, even though he has not looked very sharp over the second half of the season. But their wide receivers match up really well with that secondary. But at this point, I think the number is fair. The spread is fair. I think 5.5 is a pretty good number. With that uncertainty with Kevin Stefanski, no Bitonio, and
that's it.
That's just a pass for me. Yeah, Andy does it right.
You gotta have the fingers. Yeah,
you got to do it with your hands. I will say one thing. I maybe in the defense of the Browns here in this game was the past few weeks with some of the injuries, especially at the linebacking level for the Packers, Pittsburgh Steelers. I mix up my blue collar Steel Cities, but there is something to be said for running up the middle and gashing the inside of this defensive line, which is not as strong as the outside, and the linebacker level. And teams have been successful running straight up the middle against this team. And I mean, this is a team with two good running backs. The problem is missing a guard or two could be an issue with that. So that might stymie them with that. And, the success level they have there might be lessened because of the offensive line injuries. But I guess if I were trying something, that's what I would try, to just do what other teams have had success over the last few weeks with. Especially if I was on a backup offensive coordinator.
I love this. I love it. This all makes total sense to me. I probably would have talked myself into a Browns position if the coaching staff had a full week of normal prep. I think the market has probably overreacted a little because this did happen early enough in the week that I think they've been able to kind of adjust on the fly and make, this is not the same situation as what we saw with the Detroit Lions. All that said, I think there is an angle of attack here. Andy, we don't know 100% how Kevin Stefanski will be able to address the team at halftime, but I have a very tough time thinking that they're going to have as good a second half adjustments as we've seen over the course of the season with Stefanski.
Yeah.
Given that he won't be.
Ooh, that's a sneaky little. You're a sneaky little monkey. Look at that. Yeah. I think not only losing your halftime, or you're losing your head coach and your offensive play caller, but you do lose a big part of, and it's so important.
They're going to zoom him into the locker room.
I would. I'm not sure.
To pump him up. You're going to pump him up in the locker room by Zoom.
Dr. Eager says teams are not allowed to use the internet in any way, shape, or form during an NFL game. Like, it's in the rules.
Whoa. So how in the world is he going to be involved at all?
I don't think he's allowed to be. I think he can do it all week. He can zoom into the facility and
what if they put him in like the outbreak suit?
I think maybe you'll have to talk to Roger on that. But I don't think he's allowed to Zoom call in. I think the poor bastard has to sit on his couch and watch the game. Maybe he could do. I don't know if he can even do phone calls. Like Belichick got a phone call on the sideline the other day. If you remember him throwing himself.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah. All right. Well, I think
and we missed a good one. Gorlami.
All right. Well, I would say that the right angle of attack here is Steelers second half and or under second half, because the minute that this game is out of reach for Cleveland and the minute that this is 100% on Baker Mayfield every down as a passing down is when this becomes a problem. This is trouble. I'm not really prepared to grade Baker one way or the other because it's such a unique situation. Hopefully he doesn't stink, but he's been playing well of late. He's kind of due for a stinker, so who the hell knows? Although I guess he didn't play that great against the Jets. Maybe that was a stinker. Anyway, Baker in a tough spot. He has to play his second to last game of the season with no wide receivers and his playoff debut with no head coach. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let's move on to a little bit of playoff projection. Do you guys, does that sound fair to you guys?
Yeah.
I'll set it this way.
It's tougher this year because of there's so many more different permutations because of
I'm going to make it easy. I'm going to make it easy on you. I'm going to make it easy on you.
Okay.
For the sake of discussion, chalk prevails this week.
Chalk prevails. Right, so that leaves us with the Packers hosting the
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
The old battle for the Bay, and that leaves us with the Saints.
Breeze versus Russell Wilson and the Seahawks.
You have KC hosting your 4 seed
Baltimore Ravens.
And then you'd have
Buffalo.
Not Cleveland. Excuse me, Buffalo.
In
Buffalo.
KC hosting Baltimore. Buffalo hosting Pittsburgh. New Orleans hosting Seattle.
Every one of these a rematch? Did Saints and Seahawks play this year?
Bucks.
No,
they did not. That's the only
they didn't. The other 3 are rematches, though.
They are. Yeah, that's right. Suma, as our guest, I will give you first opportunity. What is our Super Bowl?
I'm going with Chiefs against the Bucks.
Wow. In Tampa. Interesting.
Yes.
Go win on the road in the Super Bowl. I like this.
That would be pretty amazing. Then you will have no fans. Yeah. So, of course, I'm a little bit biased, maybe because I've bet on the Bucks, but I think that the gap between the Packers and maybe the Saints and the Bucks is not as big as some people think, in my opinion. I think the Bucks, their defense has given up tons of big plays throughout the season, but they still have a very solid pass rush. They have a solid scheme. They have a solid defensive coordinator, and they have an offense that can put up points on basically any team in the NFC. And if they play against the Packers will be without their left tackle, who is an all-pro left tackle. I think that's very important. If you can contain Devontae Adams a little bit, I think there's no possible way that you can cover him 1-on-1. But maybe if you can contain Devontae Adams a little bit, there's a path, in my opinion, to beat the Packers. And the Saints are really good, but the Bucks offense is, in my opinion, really, really good. 3 great wide receivers. Mike Evans might be back next week if they beat the Washington football team. And I think an offense with Brady, who has been really, really good this year, with 3 elite receivers, with Rob Gronkowski, and a scheme, or let's say an offensive setup that has been looking better recently, I think they can beat any team in the NFC. And when I look at the odds, I think Bucks also provide the best value, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we get why you like Tampa. Explain why you like the Chiefs. It is more wide open than probably made out to be, but boy, having home field, having the rest, essentially having a double bye because they didn't have to play last week, it is pretty massive. I'd probably, like, if I'm looking at that, the KC putting together such a beautiful game plan once already to beat Baltimore, getting them at home, it just feels like even with the tough road of KC having to beat Baltimore and then probably Buffalo, I would think Buffalo could probably beat Pittsburgh. That's tough, but it's definitely very doable, especially now that you're rested, getting healthy. I would put I'm going to put the Packers in the Super Bowl, though. It's tight. It's tight for me between Green Bay, Tampa, and New Orleans. I think it is very tight, but just I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt with the 1 seed, getting the week of rest, getting the home field, cold weather home field. Like if Tampa Bay beats them in the first game, I'm not surprised. I'm not just like, oh my God, I can't believe the 1 seed fell. That's a very tough 5 seed in the history of 5 seeds. Very, very tough. But with the home field and how they're playing, I think if the offense can find a way to, we've seen this week in and week out where it's like, oh, they need to shut down Devontae Adams. Well, yeah, it's easy to say, and there are teams that have been able to limit him. And if that happens, the Packers are liable to be in a game they could lose. But if he's doing what he's done normally and just continuing to find space, get separation with the best quarterback in the league right now, they can make the Super Bowl here. And that would be, just the Packers Chiefs Super Bowl. Either that or even what Suma said, the Brady Mahomes, Rodgers Mahomes. Even like Rodgers Lamar, Rodgers Allen, all of those, like, unless something stupid happens, like, I'm going to be very mad if it's a Seattle does something stupid. If it's like Seattle Pittsburgh, I'm going to lose my shit.
Oh God! Don't even say it. Oh,
so I will say in this matchup,
of our lives. Oh no, second worst.
Matchup, I can see Seattle beating the Saints. Like, that's very Saintsy. It's very Saintsy.
I like that matchup against the Saints. They're so much better coached. Saints win and beat Seattle. I guess
likely.
So Suma, you're not. If your Rams pull off the upset and head to Green Bay, I think that opens up the door for everyone else. Oh Jesus, that would be the worst. Yeah, the Bears Colts Super Bowl was also pretty bad, by the way. That was not a great one. Great opening kickoff return for touchdown. That was fun. If the Rams beat the Seahawks and head to Green Bay, that's interesting because that I think opens the door up a little bit for everyone else in the NFC. Because I think we quote unquote we got to stop Devontae Adams. Jalen Ramsey is a pretty good way to do that. We got to get pressure on Aaron Rodgers and get him uncomfortable. Aaron Donald's a pretty great way to do that. I don't know how the Rams offense looks in that game, but I do know that your defense gives you a chance. Similarly, if the Bucs have to go through New Orleans next, I don't know if that's a great matchup for them. Suma, you're not worried about it, even after what you saw on Sunday Night Football, Week 8. That was I know that was an outlier performance, bad for the Bucs, but surely seems like New Orleans has the right recipe to flummox that team.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Bucs will be dogs in those games for a reason, no doubt about it. But I just think that I'm pretty much in love with the ceiling of the Bucs. So when Brady and those 4 great receiving weapons, if they are on fire, I think they can easily drop 30 plus points on any of those teams. And that's basically what my point is on the Bucs. I just think that their offense has the best ceiling in terms of what we are expecting from them now. And one thing on the Packers-Rams matchup, it might sound crazy, but I think that the Packers have the worst matchup in the NFC against the Rams.
I do too.
Because, like you have said, you have the cornerbacks to contain Devontae Adams. Brandon Staley likes to line up Aaron Donald on tackles quite a bit during a game, so they might line him up on a backup tackle.
Yeah, whoever's backing up Bakhtiari, that would be.
Yeah,
I think
outside of
Aaron
getting to the
pass
Super Bowl,
every time he sees Aaron Donald lined up over left tackle, I think Aaron Rodgers checks out of the pass every time.
And
yeah, you're handing that ball off.
Yeah, and the Rams can run the ball. They get Andrew Whitworth back. The Packers. That's the weakness of the Packers, giving up chunk plays in the run game.
Yeah, and unless you get to the Super Bowl and you're facing maybe Trey White or the Ravens, like that's your worst nightmare for Devontae Adams is playing the Rams as far as coverage. Even though they're a lower ranked team, yeah.
My NFC, this is somewhat colored by I don't want to be just taking chalk in the NFC, but I'm going to say the Rams win this week. That's the one upset wildcard weekend. I'm going to say they go to the Packers and they beat the Packers as well. And then I think the Saints prevail against the Bears and the Bucs, and the Saints win. They get a little revenge in the NFC title game against the Rams. Saints to the Super Bowl. Drew Brees, final ride. He's retiring after this year.
Loses by 40 in the Super Bowl.
That's
to Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. hopefully.
I like that.
The AFC is so close for me. It's really close between Baltimore, Buffalo, and Kansas City. I'm really, really close. I think again, this is somewhat being contrarian, somewhat not wanting to predict chalk here. But the idea that you've had 2 bye weeks for the Chiefs and there could be some rust. The idea that Bieniemy is doing a lot of interviewing this week as opposed to planning for the Ravens. The idea that the Chiefs could be out there blowing off some steam, catching some COVID this week, next week.
I've been to Kansas City. There's not that much to do. Good barbecue joints, but they might be closed down.
That's probably fair. But yeah, no, there's enough signal so far for me that Kansas City's been playing with fire. Eventually they're going to get burned. I think it's going to be against the Ravens in the divisional round. I could be wrong. Could lose lots of money. We'll see. But
either way, I'm very excited. This is to reiterate what I said early, like I wasn't super excited about the 7th game or the 7th team being in, but having this 6-game slate, this is awesome.
Awesome. It's awesome.
It is really going to be a lot of fun. And for anybody,
especially for Europeans.
For Europeans, for people who like halftime shows.
Yep. And for those of us who have huge liability on the Ravens going to the Super Bowl, what we want to happen here is a comfortable win against Tennessee, a rusty performance by the Chiefs, and then we are pulling hard for the Pittsburgh Steelers, guys. We want the Steelers to stay healthy, beat the Browns, go to Buffalo, take care of Josh Allen.
and then
And
just
we
get
get
waxed in Baltimore.
Pittsburgh, Baltimore, AFC title game. Because you know why? It's tough to beat a team 3 times.
Can't
especially when they're as close.
You know what happens like 70% of the time when it's a third.
Of course.
That might not be fact though.
It's going to be especially tough after the Saints beat the Bucks 3 times. It's going to be even tougher for the Steelers to beat the Ravens 3 times. And also, of course, that would be a great AFC title game because there's no love lost between.
Question.
Yes, go ahead.
AFC title game, Chiefs, Bills. What's the total?
Ooh, 56.
57?
I would say it cannot be below 57, right?
I
would
so 50. If it's 56, I would bet it. I would bet it up.
Yeah,
that's a really high number.
Resistance at 58.5, I suppose.
If it's 56,
the key number of 58.
If it's 56, see, this is the problem. You have to be a little careful with the Bills. The Bills opening script is really good, right? So a lot of times, and of course, I'm saying this after I bet they're under this week pretty heavily, but they open the game well and they score early, generally, especially against bad defenses. So you don't really want to wait and play an over live. And similarly, a Bills scoring early against the Chiefs, that sets up a game state where there's going to be like 400 points, right? Like if the Bills are up 14-0 against Mahomes and the Chiefs,
God. That's the thing. If they
it's an 80-point game. Yeah.
You script a good offense and you get up 10-14-0 or even 14-3, 14-7, that's not good for an under. That'll be and again, it would be in KC, so maybe we'd be blessed with, oh no, there's going to be snow all week, and everyone's like, oh man, let's bet this down to like 53, and we get a stupid number and be like, oh, snow doesn't matter, wind does.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Suma, thank you for your time. This was this fantastic podcast, and best of luck wild card weekend. Best of luck the rest of the playoffs.
Yeah, thanks for coming on tonight. I know it's nights where you're at. I understand time zones now. No big deal. But yeah, thanks for all your insights. Thanks for being the best friend of the pod. And I thought this was fun. And yeah, we will be, you'll see us around this Saturday as we probably do some halftime talking because we are very jacked for these games. So if anyone has any questions, comments, or whatever, hit us throughout the week. We'll be raring to talk football. We don't have any Thursday night.
I love it. All right. Best of luck. All right. Alfita's in.
Are we still live? Are you doing the music?
Yeah, I'm doing the music. You know how it goes. You know some other German words, right? Alfita's in. Danke. Our song doesn't have a theme. Or doesn't have lyrics. Thank